All right. Hey, everybody. Merrick Bennett here. We've got the microphone turned on. We've got the camera turned on. I have a couple drawing supplies. It's a beautiful afternoon. Well, it's a beautiful noon here in New Hampshire. Wonderful, warm, sunny day. And if you're outside now and you're not watching this, great, more power to you. I just wanted to do a little lunchtime check-in. We just wrapped up, or we're wrapping up week 2 of Comics Camp 2020. It's been really fun. We'll take a look at some of the artwork we've created already in our live draws. But first, I wanted to show you a little sneak peek of some paintings that I used as my inspiration for my eyeball stick figure cartooning. And these are some of my favorite paintings. So I'm going to try this. I'm trying out some new software that enables me to do live broadcasts and to do screen shares. So let's see if I can do, aha, there he is. So this is the painter Thomas Cole. In fact, we'll bring him up a little closer so he can take the spotlight here. Thomas Cole, 1801 to 1848. Wow, that's kind of a short life, but he did a lot of paintings in that time. And I wanted to show you 5 of his paintings that he did in a series. And these paintings, I've always looked at them and enjoyed them. And I wanted to use them over this week 2, to do my eyeball cartoons. So I'll show you these paintings, then we'll take a look at what we drew in Comics Camp. And maybe we can actually learn from the paintings and add something into our cartooning. All right, so let's see. Thomas Cole, he's an American painter. This is his portrait painted by Asher B. Durand in 1837, which is just before the advent of photographs. There are actually some photographs of Thomas Cole as an older man towards the end of his life. But this is what he looked like about when he painted the paintings we're going to look at today. So the first painting we'll look at today, this is a whole series of 5 paintings called The Course of Empire. And it's wonderful because they're enormous paintings. They're like 3 feet tall and 5 feet wide. You can stand in front of them and just soak in the details. But the really cool thing about them is when you put them in order, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, you actually get this storyline that covers centuries. It's the course of an entire empire. So the thing to focus on all these paintings, there's always going to be this rock on top of the hillside there. And that rock is going to be our kind of our anchor point, right? In every painting, you'll be able to see that, and that'll help you know where you are in this world that Thomas Cole is creating. So in this one, if we just kind of climb down in, there's a bay just below that rock. There's a river. You can see people canoeing on the river there. And there is a little village with a dance or a bonfire going on. People seem to be dancing. Just across the river from the village, there's a stag being chased by wolves or coyotes on a cliff. And then there's canoes all along the river there. And then a little ways away from the river, there's a band of hunters or scouts or warriors or something. And here's a hunter who's chasing a stag, moving through the forest, right? And everything's kind of swathed in mist, and the sun is just coming up over the ocean. So this is the first painting in a series, and Cole says, okay, start of the day. Here's like the natural world and people living in the natural world. That village really looks like a Native American teepee village or something. Remember, Thomas Cole's painting this in the 1830s. All right, so the next painting, another 3-foot by 5-foot painting. His second painting is called the Pastoral or Arcadian or Pastoral State. And this is the same place. Once it's loading on my computer here, we'll give it a second. There it is. First thing you notice, there's that rock up on the hillside. So we know where we are. We're down the river a little ways. And instead of a little village of teepees, there's actually some houses being built along the river and some boats coming and going. And that looks kind of like, does that look like Stonehenge or like a Greek temple or something along that hilltop there over the river? And there are shepherds. So this has really changed from hunters hunting stags to shepherds herding sheep in a pastoral landscape. And look at this old man sitting on an old tree trunk. Doesn't that look like the tree that was big and healthy in the first picture? Now it's a decaying stump. And he's drawing on the ground. Looks like some kind of Pythagorean theorem. He's starting to do some mathematics. And while he's doing that, over by the river here, sorry if I'm zooming around a lot, folks, hold on to your seats. Over by the river, they're building a warship and probably using some trigonometry and mathematics to make sure that ship floats and can do what it needs to do. And echoing that, the warship, the mathematics, there's this kid playing with soldiers on this little rudimentary bridge, and his mother's watching him. And she kind of looks a little worried, maybe. And so there's all these ominous things going on in this pastoral state. So we've gone from a little village in the midst of wilderness to a farming community, but there's these hints of development coming. Now, the third painting, those are the first two paintings in a 5-painting series. The third and middle painting is the biggest painting, and it's going to really jump ahead many, many years, but I think you'll still recognize, maybe you'll still recognize the spot. See if you can tell where we are now. This is The Course of Empire, painting number 3 by Thomas Cole, The Consummation of Empire. Do you see that rock up there? There's the rock on top of the hill. That's our focal point. That means we're kind of down in the middle of the river, and instead of a little village, we now have this enormous imperial city built along the river, right? Oh, I love this. Thomas Cole has like built up from wilderness, he's built up a whole sense of history, and he didn't have to show us every step of the story, right? Let's take a quick look into this consummation of empire. One thing I notice is there's a really diverse crowd down here. There are people from all different countries, all different clothing styles. There's horses, there's elephants, this is an imperial procession, isn't it? It's not just one village, it's people from all over. And this is either an emperor or a general who's wreathed in glory, and he has all the insignia. He's riding, I think he's riding an elephant. He's riding on top of this procession, and people are throwing wreaths to him and cheering, and people are lining. Look at all the flowers along this bridge, right? That have been cast down from above, and up above on top of these statues and these rails are bands playing fanfares for him on exotic instruments. And there are statues from all around the world and ships coming in from all around the world and filling this riverside city. And all along the steps, crowds lining it. This is like the peak of an imperial civilization. And that rock up on the hillside in the distance is watching it all happen. Now, Cole worked a detail into this painting that I think is really key. And that's what I'm looking at with my eyeball comics and all the comics we're drawing this summer in Comics Camp. We're looking for those little details that hint at stories. And if you just look at this painting as a picture of buildings and crowds, you kind of miss this. Let's look in on the lower right. So here, away from the procession, there's this giant fountain. I mean, look at the size of that fountain over these people. It's an enormous fountain, and there are two boys playing. This is like the royal families or the imperial families pavilion here. They're kind of hanging out in their box seats. They've got lunch spread out. They've got flowers thrown to them. There are soldiers guarding them. And there are these two boys, one in green. Maybe they're boys. It's hard to tell. One in green, one in red or orange. And they're sort of, don't they look like they're sort of fighting over their toy ships in the fountain? They have some balls to play with. They have toy ships. And they're playing at navies in that fountain. Maybe they're brothers. Maybe they're princes. Maybe they're part of the royal family. And they're fighting. All right. So remember that. We're going to jump to painting number 4 of 5 paintings. I'm going pretty fast here. So we went from a village in painting 1. We went to like a prehistoric village. We went to a Grecian style early village in painting 2. We jumped to the peak of empire in painting 3. And now in painting 4, well, we've jumped again, right? This is Painting 4, Destruction. Thomas Cole, 1836. So this bridge, if I go back one painting, look at that bridge at the bottom that the emperor is riding over on it, on the elephants and the diverse procession from all around the empire. The music is playing, the flowers are flying. In painting 4, there's that same bridge, but every detail has changed, right? Those pedestals and columns are all broken. The statues are headless. Gone are the crowds of adoring public, and armies are surging across that bridge. And every one of those soldiers is an individual, and they're all, oh my goodness, this is quite a scene, right? All the ships are gone. Now a navy has come up into the river. Now here's the key to that clue. Remember the two brothers, we think, fighting by the fountain, one in green, one in red. Take a look at the left side of the river. There's a green flag. And up on the ramparts, the broken ramparts on the right side of the river, there's red flags. And we think maybe this is a scene of civil war, of an empire at the peak of its powers that has come apart and fought against itself. And look at little details like on the right, this headless statue. Then look below it. The head has crashed down, and green and red figures are mourning what's happened to their society here. Just dreadful picture, but a fascinating storytelling example of storytelling by Thomas Cole. And we could pick apart these pictures for hours. I just wanted to show you a couple of those details. And let's not forget painting 5. I said it was a 5-painting series. Painting 5 gives me chills too, because this is Thomas Cole's warning. If you thought the peak of empire was a celebration, well, he's saying, look, this is ahead. If you allow that civil war to happen, look at this. And there's no people in this picture. We've gone back to a state of wilderness and ruins. And I like the details, like this black crane nesting at the top of the column. And instead of the sun rising, the moon is rising over silent seas and the river. Just a wonderful example of a story. I think Thomas Cole kind of, without using words, without painting all the details, he really gives us like a sense of a story, or he lets you imagine the story. So let's switch now. I'm going to share a different view here. Let's share, there we go. I'm going to go and share my desk cam here, which is right above me. And let's take a quick look at what we've been drawing in week 2 in Comics Cam. So this is eyeball week. So I have my little friend eyeballs all over the desk here helping me out. Yeah, they hop around like this when you wind them up, but we don't need that right now. Thank you. Okay. So we've been drawing eyeballs. And we started out, as you know, if you were drawing with us, we started out with just a simple eyeball and we gave it a job to do or an action. And then all the other eyeballs kind of responded to that. We had the ballerinas, the chompers, the helicopters, the spiders. They all came out of the desert. This is like the wilderness picture where it's all coming together. And then we looked at, I was sort of thinking of Thomas Cole's paintings. This is maybe a long time later, right? We have let's see, our actions. The eyeball serving ice cream has now grown into, I guess, an ice cream empire, like this ice cream pavilion that all the characters can come and eat in and enjoy. But also we had these hints of other characters. We had these clown eyeballs down in this cave. And just as the ice cream pavilion was grown, the clown eyeballs teamed up with the spiders, and we're not sure what they're doing, but they dug down into the tunnels, right? And then we thought, let's follow that. So we paired a piece of paper onto that, and we dug down into the tunnel, and we created, oh my goodness, we discovered they were building this giant, ominous looking robot monster in their tunnel. And Carla said, how's it going to get out of the tunnel? Well, that's what we answered in page 4. Page 1, 2, 3, 4. And we have the giant robot monster coming out of the tunnel, driven by one of the clowns. So here's our eyeball Civil War theme, and coming up and grabbing hold in a not very friendly way to this ice cream pavilion, knocking the sign down. And we have to respond. We have to show what happens after this. So I was thinking of Thomas Cole, and I thought maybe maybe we'll dwell not so much on the destruction, but on this sort of face-off between the two forces of eyeball ice cream power in this part of the world. So I actually penciled out an idea, and I thought we'd just do a little live drawing now, having looked at those Thomas Cole paintings. So I'm going to live ink this a little bit, and we'll see what comes out. It's hard to see my pencil lines, I know. That's why I go back over this with ink. Right? And we talk about this in all our live draws. We're doing this all summer. We're penciling, inking, erasing. And once you've inked and erased your work, you're ready to share it with people. So I'm encouraging everybody to share your pie, pencil, ink, erase some artwork based on Thomas Cole's paintings or on your own paintings, and then share it, tag it Comics Camp 2020, and we'll share it with the other comics campers. Let's see. So live inking this, I think I might come back and do some marker inking. The marker I used mostly for the landscape lines because I wanted a bold line to show where the land was. But this picture's a little different. I'm going to try something a little bit different. These characters are all kind of floating in this picture. They've come up off the land. And I'll show you what I mean. I'll start over on this left side because I don't want to smudge my ink, and I'm a righty, so I'm going to go like this. I'm still a little, well, a little sweaty from bike riding up to the post office this morning to mail out books. I've got a lot of new Sharjah sketchbooks I'm sending out to my backers and patrons. So that's good to be getting those out, but boy, it is hot here in New Hampshire. So inking, I have to take that into account, and I'm not going to erase right off. I'm going to let my ink dry a little extra time. So there's an arm of our monster. And if I'm ever in doubt, I go back to the drawing before and I make sure I get all the details right. There's a hinge there. Oh, I got the hinge. Because first and foremost, I want this to look familiar to the reader. I don't want to throw any new details in if I can help it. So here's the big lower jaw. There's actually going to be a clown eyeball coming out of that little window right there. Some of these things, as I draw them, they just kind of happen. They surprise you. And I encourage all of my characters to do surprising things as I'm drawing them. Preferably as I'm penciling so I can take them into account, but every now and then, as you're inking, surprising things will happen. And that's okay. I like drawing this face on this robot monster because I like imagine what all these sensors are. Some are lights, some are sensors and scanners, and I imagine how this robot monster would use them in different situations. Let's see, there was a little flame coming out of this robot monster's mouth, and then I think we're going to color it in black like we did on the other page. This all in here will be dark, dark black. I'll do that last though. It'll look like this. That really helps your eyes see the mouth and see it opening up as a gap, right? Oh, I like how this is coming out, folks. All right. Hi, Christina. Yeah, please post a comment. You know, I can see your comments. That's why I'm doing this live on Facebook so people can post comments. We've been doing live on YouTube for our live draws, which is nice. It's kind of cozy, and if you have the URL, you can join us. But also YouTube doesn't allow comments for videos made for kids, which is probably wise. I want to get some commenting opportunities in here. So there's a strong monster eyeball riding shotgun on the shoulder of the giant monster, because that's the focus here is the giant monster ice cream, and then I'll show you what's happening on this side. Maybe you can see a little bit of it. But riding on top of the giant monster ice cream are all its cronies, ice cream cone cronies. So here's the body. Now I had this idea, you know, sometimes when the monster ice cream like jumps, one foot comes up in front of the other. So I had this idea of bringing this foot up in front of the body. See that? That's going to go, let me draw the other side and you'll see it. There. And what I actually do often is I'll get up out of my seat and I'll like jump myself and see how it feels. And then I'll try to draw that feeling. So here's my leg coming up as I jump like a giant ice cream monster robot. And then another leg going down. And if I make this lower leg smaller, I'm going to try this. See if it feels like this leg is kicking up towards you. And then this leg is kicking down away from you. I'm trying to give I know I said I'm keeping it really flat here, but I thought maybe for the showdown scene, it'll feel like this monster's leaping out of the page at you. You know where I got that idea, actually? One of our campers, when I post some gallery shots, I'll post them. One of our campers, little puzzle art, posted some awesome pages of eyeballs. And at the very end, they had this great idea. One of the eyeballs jumps out of the page at you. And I read that and it was just a thrill to see something creative like that happening on the last page of a story. And I thought, I want to work that into my story. Try it out. That's what we're doing all summer, is learning from each other, putting ideas out there, seeing them bounce off other creative minds and other creative pages, and see them come back tenfold. So this is one of my favorite ways to draw these spider eyeballs, is to draw them like legs akimbo, arms akimbo. Here we go. This one is climbing all over the outer body of this ice cream monster robot. And I kind of want it to look like it's just like crawling all over, coming at you. Because if this robot's jumping towards you and it's covered with creepy, crawly spider monster eyeballs, it's going to seem extra creepy, crawly. So you notice where these legs of the spider monster eyeballs go over the lines of my monster robot, I'm actually leaving a little gap in the line. That helps your eye see that leg. I didn't do that on every leg, but I'm trying to do it on some of them. I like how those legs, there's always 8 legs, but one always kicks out when they're running because they go every which way. They grab the tunnel walls, they grab the ceilings, they grab whatever they pass. Now you notice this monster eyeball down here, the spider eyeball, is getting smaller than these other ones. So if I only have small ones down here and a small foot, I'm hoping it'll feel like they're bubbling up and rushing towards you as you look at this page. Again, legs everywhere. At least one leg has to be touching something because they can't fly. They can leap. Let's put this foot on here so we can anchor that monster robot. Now, stylistically, this doesn't have a lot to do with Thomas Cole's paintings that we just looked at, right? Those paintings are that Thomas Cole is painting, right? He's working in colors and I'm working in lines here. I'm doing black and white, basically even simpler than stick figure line art. But what I'm learning from him as a storyteller and a painter and a teacher is how he can tell a story without telling every step in the story. He gives you some clues, like those kids playing by the fountain. And then later, if you know to look for those clues, maybe you can piece together what his story is. I like how this clown, remember we tucked a clown eyeball into that little window as if they're driving the giant robot. And then as the giant robot leaps, the clown also kind of leaps out of that little window and everything's just kind of leaping apart. And I want all hands on deck, everything happening at once in this picture. Maybe I'll color in behind that clown eyeball. I'm not going to color right up to those legs because I would lose the legs. But a little shadow around that clown eyeball will help you see it because it's coming out against a dark, dark cockpit of the giant robot. You know how these things, you know, when you see a clown eyeball jumping out of a giant robot cockpit, yeah, it's like that. That's all I'm trying to draw. I don't know if I want to push that a little closer to the legs. I can always decide later. I'll leave it for now. All right, couple buttons here. Little readout thingy. What do we have on this one? Oh yeah, 2 buttons and some dots. Okay, we can do that. Beep. I don't think readers are going to go back and double check that so much as just look at the whole. Hopefully they're caught up in my story and not double checking the arrangements of buttons and bolts on my giant robots. Let's not forget also, while we're here, I don't want to forget the texture. So it's crisscross lines with little bolts in the corners. I'm just going to, you know what, I'm going to go back to pencil. I don't quite dare. I've only drawn this character, this robot, a couple times. So I'm going to curve it because remember, it's like an ice cream cone style body. It's like a waffle cone, only huge and made out of titanium or something. Adamantized titanium. That's it. That's what they use on giant monster ice cream robots. Sometimes you get these engineering details as you draw. So I'll just bolt those all together, and that will look like not so much an ice cream cone as a giant robot. Now, this is the penultimate page in our saga. Thomas Cole painted 5 paintings. Looks like we're going to have 6. That's okay. And I'll show you the last page once we've inked a little more of this. So let's see. I'm noticing there are actually a whole lot of spider eyeballs down here. Let's put a few of them in. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, that one, that arm, it almost looks like it's waving its fellow spider eyeballs on. Attack! Go, go! That's the kind of inking surprise that I look for. Maybe not all their legs are visible as they crawl over the edge of this picture. There are way more spider eyeballs, scary spider eyeballs, than I thought there would be in this picture. Don't forget the fangs. Ooh, they're getting all tangled up in each other, climbing over each other. Tuck one behind here. And one more. And I think that will suffice to look like a whole pile of them. And hopefully it kind of looks like they're tickly and creepy crawly and climbing out of the bottom of this picture. And then I always think of readers reading left to right across the pictures. So the way this spider robot is jumping, it's kind of leaping up and over, and it's going to land on this side of the picture. So we've got 2 sides, 2 contending sides, just like Thomas Cole showed in painting number 4. I'll post links to Thomas Cole's paintings so you can go back and study them. But he showed those 2 armies on either side of the river and the bridge between. We've kind of got 2 sides here, and they're coming together. So on this side, they're moving this way. And I'll walk us down from the top because number 1, I don't want to smudge my ink with my sweaty, hot summer hand. And number 2, I kind of drew this coming down from the top because I think readers are going to read it from the top down. So at the very top, I'm bringing in some characters from the page before. Remember when the monster robot jumped out and all these characters enjoying their ice cream suddenly had to react? And these ballerinas, I said, they're not scared of anything. They love their ice cream, but they also love a good dancing opportunity. They come running out of that ice cream pavilion, and I thought they were going to run away, but no, look at this. They go jumping to the rescue. So here's one, and this is the one with the ribbon on. There's one with ribbon, one with lace. That's how I tell them apart. Here's the tutu. I love those curls of the tutu. I put a top and a bottom on it, although some tutus are so lacy that they don't have that top and bottom. And I love when they jump, their feet really kick. I mean, little eyeballs who train as ballerinas, they are amazing athletes too. So this one goes tutu and ribbon goes jumping up into the sky. And here comes the partner, ballerina eyeball. So happy to be dancing, whether it's dancing in a show or dancing to save the ice cream parlor from a giant monster robot. They just love their job. They're brave and ready to go. We'll put a tutu on that one. And instead of leaping legs to either side, this one, what is that called in ballet when you jump and your feet go down? I'll have to look that up. But this one's doing some ballet moves as they jump. And then, oh, maybe I do need to put the other arm of this giant monster robot in here. just so we don't get confused later on. So you notice how I feel like this arm's a little smaller than this arm. This leg's a little smaller than this leg. That to me kind of feels like the monster's turning and coming out of the page at us. I penciled a couple arms on there. I made sure they fit. Oh, yeah. You notice something? See this little box around the edge of the page? I remembered to put my margins on the page this time. That's why I'm not drawing right to the edge, because that margin reminds me. We're going to do that all summer long. So we've got our pencil ink erase process, pencil ink erase. And once you're done, you're ready to share your pie with your readers. And we've also got this simple technique of putting a little box around the edge of the page and keeping your artwork away from that edge. That'll save you a lot of heartache when you go to make books out of it. Okay, here's this other claw. Oh, and look at that. There is a spider monster eyeball riding on top of that claw, sort of looking up, malevolently reaching for those ballerinas. I love how those spider legs reach menacingly. It's so fun to have some creepy characters who you can throw into a scene and they can just do stuff for you. Christina, yes, maybe that's a pirouette. Yeah. Yeah, that sounds familiar. This is cool. If you draw ballerina characters and you know nothing about ballet, you're going to have to learn something about ballet. I should probably do my research and come up with some cool moves that they can bust out when these monsters attack. And then I'll actually have the terminology. I get so obsessed with research that I'll end up doing a whole comic about ballet or something. And I never set out to do that, but drawing my characters, you end up getting interested. I mean, these characters get us interested in whatever we're drawing. It's through the characters that I really get curious. Here's a little made up spiral brass instrument here. I don't know how these eyeballs play these, but they don't even have mouths. But anyways, I thought if those ballerinas are jumping, probably one of these eyeballs would grab a trumpet or something. Oh, look, it's a helicopter eyeball. Flying through the air, blasting a fanfare. That's an idea I got from Thomas Cole, from the fanfare on the porch over the imperial procession in that painting we looked at a little while ago. All right, we're getting down to it. So now we have the monster robot jumping this way. We have the ballerinas jumping over. We have the music that they're dancing to coming this way. And then, or maybe that's a bugle blast, marshaling the forces of the ice cream pavilion to defend their little community. And then we have, this is our friend who started this all off by bringing the ice cream cart into the desert. And there's the ice cream scoop. And this eyeball character, I'll put the feet on here. This eyeball character is leaping also bravely into the fray. And the only thing this one knows to do, what they know best, is they're serving up some ice cream. They're hoping that by meeting this, the bold aggression of the clown eyeballs in their monster robot, by meeting it with hospitality, they're hoping to maybe, I don't know, maybe solve this scene of destruction. In Thomas Cole's paintings, there was no solution, right? But we can decide, we can choose a different ending if we want. And I'm about to ask you what's going to happen for the ending. I'll show you what I'm thinking, and then I'll ask you. Looks like this chomper eyeball has gotten some courage, scraped together some courage. I'm thinking this is the roof of the ice cream pavilion. We like from here, looking at it from afar, looking at it as a flat world, we zoom in and everybody's like leaping off the roof to meet the giant robot, and the giant robot's leaping up. Now, I need to frame this in some way so it doesn't just look like a bunch of jumbled characters. So here's what I'm thinking. Let me just put Adventurer Eyeball in here. I love these characters they have so much character, but they're so simple to draw. Now, like I said, I'm not going right to the edge of the page because I have this idea that I'll frame it. This is something Thomas Cole didn't do. He just showed you his scene, right? But I'm going to frame it as a cartoonist. I can come in with my marker and put this sort of explosion around my characters. And in fact, they can kind of be popping out of that explosion. So in places, the explosion will go behind them. Now I penciled this in to see how it looked basically. Now I'm following my pencil lines, although that might be hard for you to see on screen. But if you were here looking at this in the natural light of my desk, you could see that I'm following pencil lines. That enables our spider monster eyeballs to kind of jump around the edge of the explosion. I don't know, sometimes you put this sort of thing on and you realize, I wish I'd done a rectangle. Let's see how this looks. I can do a border. I could leave the border off, leave this open. But I kind of like the difference of having, see, this is like Thomas Cole's approach. Just paint the painting or draw the picture and show what's happening. Here I'm kind of framing it as, it makes it maybe, in my eye, it makes it sort of sparkle or shake or come at you differently. I'm going to go one step further, in fact. I'm going to go back to my thin line felt tip pen. And I have actually gone in and lightly penciled some rays. And these lines all point back pretty much to the center of the painting, right about where this spider monster eyeball is, right? And if that's the focus, the painting, my eyeball cartoon, it's not a painting, folks. Don't be fooled. So if that's the focus point, and look at that, that spider eyeball really is pretty much in the center. Maybe I can go in and add some lines, just like we did on our tunnels. See how those lines darken the tunnel? Gave it a little shadow there. Let's try that and see if we can darken around the edge of the picture and make it almost feel like it's, along with the big and small legs and things like that, like it's jumping out at us. So let's see, I'll just kind of follow those lines. And they all point back to the center. I like doing this sort of thing. This I learned from reading Japanese manga. They do a lot of motion lines like this, especially radial lines that all zoom out at you. And it makes you feel like you're flying across the page sometimes. Let's put some in over here. Oh, I like that. And yeah, it sort of grays the background and brings my character out a little. I don't want to get too detailed with too many lines here. I want to keep it as simple as possible. This is eyeball cartooning like simplicity. But let's just gray around the edges, and hopefully that'll make the center kind of pop out at us. Or sometimes you add these details and you realize, nah, should have kept it simple. But we could always go in, we could always take them out when we scan it, or we could white them out, or in the worst case, retrace the whole picture. If we decide we really don't like these lines. I'll put a couple of these lines along my guidelines, kind of flashing out like this. All right. Oh, and the other thing I think that will help us focus a little more is if I come in with my marker and I color in this mouth. Now remember, I'm not going to color right up to that strong monster's leg. I'm going to color around it, because if I color black up to that black leg, it'll disappear. That's the nature of black and white cartooning. Yeah, if anybody has any good eyeball fanfares, we can, I could, of course, replace this with a staff and write a little fanfare in there. If you hear a certain fanfare, let me know. I love how these little details, like just having a musician eyeball in there, makes me think, oh yeah, those ballerinas, maybe they have some friends who have a band, and there could be a whole story about that. I'm tempted to maybe color in the roof of the ice cream pavilion black. What do you think? Would that balance the black up here and help you see this as details all sort of feels like they're spinning around each other, like I'm falling off the roof of the ice cream pavilion too. I think what I'll do is I'll leave it light for now. And then when I scan this in, I'll try coloring it in black. And if I like it, I'll come back with my marker and do it. If I can ever leave my options open, I do that. So of course I won't, where's my little card? So pencil ink erase, of course, the third step is going over all this and erasing the pencil lines. That's not super exciting on screen because it's hard to see those pencil lines on screen anyway. So let's leave that for now, and I will erase that later. That was fun. Wow, let's take a quick look at our scene here. We went from a flat emerging monster robot, and then I wanted to get into the action even more. So the monster robot leaps, and our heroes all leap to defend the ice cream pavilion, and they're about to meet. They're just about to crash together in the center of the page. And I was thinking, then I'll draw what happens next. But I went back to my Thomas Cole paintings. And I realized he doesn't draw what happens next, right? Thomas Cole shows you the moment of destruction of the armies meeting, and then he shows you something from like 500 years later. So here's my idea, and I want to get your feedback on this, either in comments or you can message me your ideas. My idea for the next page takes a page from Thomas Cole, and he shows the ruins of his city. So I was thinking I would have parts you'll recognize, like the little ice cream face from the sign sticking up, maybe like a big ice cream cone piece sticking out of the sand and rocks, and just ruins, all the pieces, the Y from the Yum sign, and then coming up over the hill, same hill as, where's my page? There it is. I traced this from our first picture. So the land is pretty much the same. Gone is the cave, gone is the ice cream pavilion. Coming up over the hill, some fresh eyeballs who come across these ruins and maybe wonder what they are. So what I'm thinking of before I ink this, I'm trying to come up with, half a spider and a couple bent legs. Like I actually tried to do that right here. I was thinking that way too. That I thought would be a bent leg. Maybe like a couple legs together would remind you of a spider. I don't want to be too gory. Like I don't want eyeball body parts, but I want to hint at the eyeballs. What does an eyeball skeleton look like? And also I'm looking for details of like how to make these eyeballs look like they come from a totally different time period. And I'm trying maybe like a white hat with a square top where we had round hats in this one, or maybe like space age antennae coming off of them, but I wasn't sure if that would be distracting to readers. I don't know. Or maybe there's like a flying saucer landing and something other than an eyeball is coming up. Oh, like a nose or something. I'm going to think about that. I think what I'll do now, so that's given you a sense of it. We looked at Thomas Cole's paintings. We live inked this page together. This page. I'm feeling good about this. I'm going to go scan this page. I'll erase it. I'll scan it. I'll post what we have so far. If you have ideas for the final page showing the ruins, I would love to get your ideas. Comment, different era hats, whatever kind of details. I thought maybe a monument or something, but we'll see. Yeah, maybe a little plaque or something. But I want it to be totally clear to the readers. I'll think about that. I'll link that. And I'm also going to post what's coming up for week 3. We've got some cool surprises coming up for Comics Camp week 3. So I will post that to the site. If you're on the Patreon, you'll see that. It'll come to you directly in your email updates. So thank you, patrons, and thank you, Comics Campers, for supporting the camp. And if you're not on Comics Camp, head on over and check it out. We'd love to have you. We're drawing all summer long, doing not all eyeball projects. Next week, week 3, we're going to get into monsters, and I have a bunch of monster surprises, good surprises involving monsters coming out. And we'll also show, next week, we'll show what happens in the last page and how all these pages together can become a book, The Course of Eyeball Empire. And I'll put a little thank you to Thomas Cole in that book. Great. So this is such a beautiful day. Let's get outside, folks. Thank you very much for joining us. Nice to get your comments. Nice to draw with you. And hopefully this all works. So I'll go watch the video and see how this software is working. And we'll make sure all the screen shares work and everything. Be well. We'll see you Monday for our next live draw for week 3 of Comics Camp. Monsters and bunnies. Thanks for tuning in, folks. See you soon.